Okay, good. Well, this is the first episode of John V. Hall's talk show for students of English. And let's see, we have one of our guests here, and we're just waiting for the other one to join right now. Let me see. I don't see her yet. Okay, good. But let's get started anyway. Let's see. First, we have one of the panelists today, a student of mine. Okay, and here comes the other panelist. Okay, good morning, Catalina.
Hey, good morning.
Welcome to the show. Okay, and let me see. I was just introducing Carlos. So, Carlos, can you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Okay, my name is Carlos Pacheco. I lived in Palmares downtown.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 39 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working for a company where they export ornamental plants, grower exporters. Yeah, I have a lot of time to work with them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm I work in a company like financial, all these parts about the numbers could be the correct word that I can say about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I have 2 years. I think,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I have 2 years receiving English lessons with young Victor Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think some things about me.
Okay, good. And how about you, Catalina? Please tell everybody about yourself.
I'm Catalina Barrientos.
Mm-hmm.
I I'm from San Carlos, La Fortuna, San Carlos,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm electronic engineer. I'm your student the last year, I guess. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and right now I'm looking for any opportunity master's degree in food science and nutrition. We
Mm-hmm.
are the fourth, five generations of dairy product production.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the field that I want to continue studying.
Mm-hmm. I see. You live on a dairy farm, or your
Yes,
family lives on a dairy farm, right?
yes, yes.
I see. Okay. Good. So let's see. Okay. Well, today is a little bit unusual. In the future, I hope to have guests on the show. But today's the first day of the show, and I decided that I would make myself the guest. Today, I'm both host and guest of the show. And this gives the audience a chance to learn a little bit about me. Obviously, some people watching this show are going to be students of mine, but some people watching this may not be students of mine. And so, yeah, we want people to find out a little bit about me. And so I have asked both of you to ask me some questions. And the questions are going to be about my experience as an English teacher. I have been teaching English for about 31 years now. And so that started in 1994. And I'll just give a brief outline of where I have been teaching English and what I have been doing. Okay, so in 1994, I got my first qualification to work as an international English teacher. It was called the RSA certificate at the time. And that was a 1 month training course, intensive every day. And I got that, and I was planning to go to Japan and teach English there. And I was looking around for a job, but I decided that it would be a good idea to have some experience before going over to Japan. So I volunteered as an English teacher in many different places in the Canadian city of Halifax. And basically, I taught refugees, immigrants, and visitors to Canada, people who were visiting just for the purpose of practicing their English and improving their English. And I did that for about a year, and it was a very interesting experience. I worked with a lot of different types of people. Then I went to Japan, and I went to live in the city of Kyoto, Japan. Kyoto is near the big city of Osaka, which is the second biggest city in Japan. And that region is called the Kansai region of Japan. And that's where I was based. And I stayed there for about 3.5 years. And I was going out and teaching at companies, going to offices and teaching people in their places of work. And it meant that I could take the train every day. And I'd often go to one place in the morning, teach a class there, then get back on the train, go to another place, teach another class. And I was taking the train all day long, every day, and teaching in different locations. And then I left Japan around 1999 and did a little bit of traveling in Central America and Mexico. And then in 2000, I decided to stay in Costa Rica. And that is the beginning of a long stay. Actually, I'm still here. And in the beginning, I was teaching company classes, but this time I wasn't taking a high-speed train. I was taking buses and going around San Jose and the metropolitan area here. And again, teaching company classes. And I did that for several years. And eventually I got hired by PricewaterhouseCoopers, Costa Rica, to teach English for them for a while. And then I eventually moved to ULACIT, the one of the best private universities in Costa Rica. And at the time, they were trying to become Costa Rica's first bilingual university. So they were really serious about English. And I taught English there for about 3 years. And then I started working in various jobs, most of them involved with teaching. But then in 2010, I reached the conclusion that sort of trying to teach my own English classes here and there was very unstable. One minute I'd be hired as an English teacher, and then the next minute they'd change their mind and they'd say, "Oh, no, we don't need an English teacher now," and things like that. It was very, very unstable. And so then I started actually working for companies like Hewlett-Packard in Costa Rica, and I wasn't teaching English there. I was a full-time worker, but I was still teaching some English on the side, and that's when I got into online teaching. I worked at a few different companies until 2017, and then I went completely online. And I had about half of my students in Costa Rica, but the other half were Chinese children that I was teaching online through a company called VIP Kid. And I did that until I couldn't. I think it was in 2021, if I remember, that suddenly the Chinese government decided that they would no longer permit foreigners to teach English to children in China. And at that time, suddenly me and about 1 million other English teachers around the world lost our jobs teaching children in China. But at that point, I had a good foundation with my students in Costa Rica, and I just changed over to teaching Costa Ricans full-time online. And I've been doing that ever since. And here we are today, and I'm still doing it. And okay, so that gives you an overview. So let's see. So this is a talk show. That means that you're going to interview people. So go ahead and ask me questions about any of the teaching that I have done in the past. Okay. Who would like to start?
I want to ask something.
Sure.
What did you, or what was the inspiration to start or to choose being an English teacher?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was a university student doing a master's degree in philosophy. And my plan at that time was to become a professor of philosophy at a Canadian university. But things were not going well. I was very sick, and I was in and out of school. And I realized that I wasn't really going to be able to go any further. But while I was in those final years of doing the master's degree, I was talking to one of my professors one day, and he was visited at the same time by a former student of his. And she came in and she sat down and started talking to the professor, and I was there. And she started talking about what she was actually doing, her work at that time. And she was actually teaching English to people who were learning it in Canada. And she and the professor talked for like an hour about this. And I was listening the whole time. And I thought to myself, hey, that's the kind of thing that I like to do, you know? And she doesn't know it. I don't even remember her name now. She doesn't know it, but I think she was hardly even aware of the fact that I was there in the office. But she was talking about all of her experiences teaching these students English. And I heard the whole thing, and I thought, hey, that sounds like a really great thing to do, really interesting, and something that I could do well. And that's what started it.
That's nice.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I don't remember her name. I don't remember her name anymore, and she doesn't know the impact that she had. But yeah, she got me started on this.
Yeah, you never know when you find any angel in the road.
Yeah. Okay. Well, any other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Hall, when you arrived to Japan, what was the main or the first cultural shock about the about Japanese students?
About Japanese students.
Yeah, because the culture is there is different. Very
Yeah. The first shock about the students. Well, okay, I can say this. When I was in Canada, I had 2 Japanese students.
okay.
So I already had some experience teaching Japanese people. That was good. But I have to admit, those Japanese students were in Canada, so they were kind of out of their usual environment, you know. But then I was in the usual environment when I was there in Japan, and I think the first thing that was really different was the fact that Japanese students are perfectionists. They don't want to do anything that's wrong. And because if you do something wrong, that's bad, you know. And so when it comes to speaking English in class, that is really difficult for them. They do not want to make a mistake. So what do? They usually don't say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really, really difficult when you ask a question to your students and nobody says anything.
And how did you encourage them to start doing something else? I
Yeah,
mean, like, because they are children. As us, it's complicated when you want to speak in a
right.
different language. But as you mentioned, like they are very perfectionist in the field. So how did you encourage them? How was the
Yeah.
experience with them to try and move on?
Well, with the higher level students, I could talk to them and they could understand me to a certain extent. So I tried to talk to them about how it's okay to make mistakes and that you learn and you get better by making mistakes. But the problem is, what do you do with beginners? Because you can't explain that to them. And remember that I couldn't speak Japanese. And as a matter of fact, the whole time I was in Japan, I really could not speak Japanese. And so I didn't have that option. I couldn't talk to them in their own language. And when you've got people who are, you know, they can say, hello, how are you? My name is this, and that's about it. How do you tell them this? How do you get them to talk? And that was just always a problem in Japan. It was always a problem. And um, and I have to admit, I had some classes where I had to teach them for a few weeks, and I did, and by the end, they were still being silent. They were still being silent most of the time, and that was really, really challenging. Um, it was sometimes very, very frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, were you saying, according to you saying, so which one was the most rewarding experience that you had
In Japan,
uh, after? Yes.
the most
I mean,
rewarding.
when they started speaking, they probably was the most, the better
Well,
one.
yeah,
But different than that,
and slowly you got them so that uh, they were not afraid to talk. And I found, well, in some companies that they were all dead serious. In other companies, you could make them laugh sometimes, but there was still a tendency, like they thought that they shouldn't be laughing, but sometimes you would accidentally make them laugh. And I really they were trying to control themselves, but the thing is when you laugh, then you're not as nervous, right? You relax a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
So it was always a big challenge. You know the expression to break the ice, right? Oh yeah, I was always trying to break the ice. Now there were some students, of course, who got over that problem, and by the time, like, I would sometimes go in and teach students at a higher level, and they were already comfortable talking in English. Yeah, that was very, very nice. And but like the most rewarding experience, there were so many. It's hard to say like one particular, but I think this happened several times. I think there were cases where a student was able to come out of their shell. Do you know what I mean by that? Yeah.
yeah.
It's like a turtle. A turtle hides in its shell, right? And you got to try to get the turtle to come out. Okay. Well, it happened many times, but after a while, I got to know the students, and they started to come out of their shell, and and then you discovered the person that was in there, you know. But I will say this: there's a lot of people in Japan who do not have dominant personalities, and they are kind of accustomed to being told what to do and not taking charge themselves. Um, and yeah, you can get them to speak English, but they still have a tendency to be that way at times, you know. So they're going to come out of their shell, but they're just going to come out a little bit. They're going to come out a little bit for a while and see what it's like around, and then they're going to naturally retreat back in. But you know that they do come out at some point. You just gotta wait.
Yes, one of the things you're mentioning, like it's kind of complicated to teaching people with different language,
Oh yeah,
as for example the Japanese, the Chinese, the Korean. They don't have the same alphabet
no, they
that
don't.
us. Um, so it's pretty complicated, I guess. Well, no, it is complicated. So when you arrived to
Hmm.
Japan, how was your experience, not as an English teacher, as a person, as a human? Like, because it was 20 years ago. How was your experience being there? Because, first of all, nobody speaks
Well, no,
English.
that's not true. That's
And,
not true.
oh, it doesn't.
Yeah. In fact, at the company where I worked, all of the staff spoke English, and they were there to help us to get settled, find an apartment, and things like that. So we had Japanese people that we could talk to in English, and there is a lot of English in Japan, and sometimes you go somewhere to do something, and if you're lucky, you can find a person who speaks English, and they'll help you. But there are sometimes that doesn't happen, and then you got a problem. Yeah. Uh, but yeah, I was able to survive for 3.5 years. I did not learn Japanese. That was a big disappointment of mine while I was there. I started taking a course once, but the problem was that I paid a lot of money for the course, and suddenly my schedule changed in the middle of taking the course, and I couldn't attend the classes anymore. And yeah, I couldn't get a refund either. So yeah, it was really hard to fit classes in with my schedule, which was always changing.
Mr. Hall, what about the experience about Chinese children? Obviously,
Yeah.
similar. Well, could be similar, but yeah, it's a different country, but it's cultures.
Right. Mm-hmm. There is the shyness there, meaning that they are timid sometimes. But there were a lot of things that were different. One is that those kids are studying all the time, every day of the year. You won't believe this, but in China, the kids always have homework every single day of the year. They go on summer vacation and they still have homework to do every day. The big problem there, and they have a similar problem in Japan, but they just think that more school is better. Give the children more school, and in fact, take away the rest of their lives. They don't really get to do very much else. They just study all the time. And so the big problem with teaching the children online is an awful lot of them are bored. So extremely bored, and they hate school.
Mhm.
And some of them, you'd be teaching them and you'd see their eyes moving and you could tell that they were actually doing something else on the computer while you were teaching them. They weren't actually paying very much attention to you, you know. And sometimes you'd ask a question and there would be like 10 seconds of silence, and then the student would finally say, "What?"
Yeah, it's so complicated.
And you'd have to ask the question again, and you just knew they were doing something else on the computer, you know.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. But I felt really sorry for them because there's no escape. They are studying all the time. They go to public school, and then usually they go to something called a cram school, which is a private school, which gives them extra lessons. And then they come home and they often have to take online. At that time, they were taking online English classes and sometimes online math classes or something like this as well. It was just like all day, every day. And yeah, now some of them, you know, get into it and some of them learn and some of them like speaking English, but others are just like zombies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And it's difficult to get their attention and get them focused sometimes. Yeah.
So you always use the same strategy to teach them online, or how do you adapt your classes for them?
Well, the lessons were provided by the company, so I didn't have any choice about what to teach them. But in terms of strategy, yeah, I would get to know the students. And, you know, there were some that you could actually talk to. There were some who were just like, just waiting for the class to finish and they didn't really care about it. And I was always trying to look for ways to engage those students, you know. And sometimes I could. I tried to find out something about them, you know, and find out what they were interested in, and then tried to get them to talk about that. But of course, I couldn't just do like what I sometimes do with Costa Rican students now, and that is sometimes we just talk. We talk about interesting things, right? But I couldn't do that because there were lessons that had to be taught. So yeah, I had to teach the lessons and try to find some way to get the bored ones interested. But not everybody was bored. There were lots who were actually very interesting, and they had they were interested in learning English, and there were some who were getting really good at it. So, yeah,
That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
And changing the country, how is your experience in Costa Rica? Meanwhile, teaching Spanish speakers in Costa Rica.
Yeah. Well, first I can say that it just seemed a lot easier than Japan. Because, well, you do get people here who are afraid to speak, but it's not like it is in Japan. And in terms of the language, there's another problem with the Japanese actually, and that is the structure of their sentences is totally different than English. If I remember correctly, I think I'm not very sure about this. I may be wrong, but I think in Japanese, you actually start with the object of the sentence, and then you say the verb, and the subject is often not mentioned. Now, that is something that Japanese has in common with Spanish, because here you can say a sentence and not mention the subject. The verb indicates what the subject is. So usually what happens in both Japanese and in Spanish, you have to mention the subject at the beginning, or at least people have to know what the subject is. They don't always have to identify it. They often just know what the subject is. And then they don't have to mention it. And in fact, in Japanese, you really don't mention it. But the same thing happens in Spanish. And you've got your verb, which indicates what the subject is. So that's helpful. But the Spanish-speaking students, they'll still drop.
We're good. We're good.
Let me see. I might have to drop you here, Catalina. Okay, yeah, we're gonna have to drop you. Okay, maybe she's going to be okay later. I don't know. Okay. Yeah, so Spanish speakers often don't say the subject, and you almost always need the subject in English. Yeah. So you have to remind students to say the subject. You can't say is important. You have to say it is important. Okay.
Yeah.
And that word it, which actually translates as the Spanish word ello, but that word ello is rarely used. Okay. It's only used in complex sentences sometimes. And it doesn't occur at the beginning of a sentence. It usually occurs in the middle, in the second part of a complex sentence. But even still, it's often just not said. But you have to say it, because in English, if you don't say the word it and you start, for example, with the word is at the beginning of the sentence, is in English, it's a yes,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So you're kind of making people think that you're asking a question if you start with is. Okay, let's see if we can get Catalina to join again. Well, okay, her screen is black. Let's see if we still have the problem. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I
have to
think
turn her
that
off.
is the problem.
Yeah. We don't see you. And we hear horrible noise. Okay. Let me see. Yeah, we have some questions here. I'm glad she pointed that out to me. Let's go to these questions here. From Juan Boza, one of my students. He asks, what was the weird thing you eat in Japan?
Yeah, I think that a common question about the food.
Yeah, they eat a lot of things that are very, very different. I never ate this myself, but I often saw on television Japanese chefs preparing octopus.
Octopus.
You know what octopus is?
Yeah.
That thing with 8 tentacles, when they start cutting them, they're still alive.
Oh, really?
They cut the tentacles off, and the tentacles are still moving.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Ugh. My God. That's so I did eat octopus, but not moving pieces of octopus, there's one thing. Oh, okay. It looks like we have Catalina back. Okay, let's add her back in.
I'm here.
Okay. Okay, we have a little bit of noise coming from you, but we can hear you now.
And it's
Catalina.
okay.
Yeah,
I don't know
now actually it's okay. Yeah, you're good. Yeah.
my biggest. Sorry, I was just. I don't know. Something fell down.
Yeah, something happened. Yeah, I don't know what it
Yeah.
was, but
Sorry.
okay. But okay, yeah, and thanks for bringing to my attention the questions in the chat, because I'm answering the one of the ones from Juan Boza. I was going to mention,
About the food.
yeah, there's one type of food, and it was actually really good. But the funny thing about it was the translation into English. The translation is fried octopus balls.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, it's called takoyami
Yes,
in
takoyami.
Japanese. You've had
Yeah.
it, have you?
Yes, I had it. It's amazing the taste, and it's spectacular when you eat it because
Yeah.
mouth feeling about. I don't remember how's the name of this pink paper that is not a paper. It's a special ingredient in there, and when you try it and when you see it in the plate, it's moving. I don't remember what is the name of.
Oh, yeah, I know what that is. Well, I've seen it, but I don't know what the name of it. They use it in Korean food too. Yeah, it's something they cut it very, very fine. It looks like a pink paper, and
Uh,
when it's hot, put on something hot, it actually moves. Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah, and you could have that on the fried octopus balls too. But that sounds terrible. Fried octopus balls. But it's actually really, really good. And what can I describe it? It's like a pancake that's not sweet, and it has pieces of octopus in it. And yes, it is fried. And what they do is they put it in a mold. Catalina, I think you know what a mold is, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you use molds to make cheese, among
Yeah.
other things, right?
Yeah.
But they put it in a mold, and the mold is metal, and
Hot.
it forms the balls. Yeah, and then you close the cover, and yeah, so it fries it from all sides, and then you open it, and yeah, you've got a ball. You've got a pancake with octopus in it, which is fried in the form of a ball. And what I really liked about it is on the cold days in Japan, it was a great thing to eat, because it really fills you up. It fills you, and it's hot. It's a really great, great food, for cold days in Japan.
Mhm.
Yeah. Let me see. Juan has a couple of other questions here. One about speaking in Japanese. Well, I did not learn Japanese, but I will admit that I did learn basic survival phrases. Okay. I learned how to count. I learned how to count with the money. I learned the three expressions that you need to say in public in Japan. And there's only really three of them. They are sumimasen, which means excuse me, gomen nasai, which is I'm sorry, and arigato, which is thank you.
Thank you.
And there's also arigato gozaimasu, which is thank you very much. Okay. And in public, you need to say those things because, if you accidentally get in someone's way, if you're walking and you are in front of somebody and you interfere with them, then yeah, you have to say sumimasen. Okay. Or, and basically you use you say "sumimasen" and "gomen nasai," you apologize for everything. Uh, anything in public in Japan, you're often very, very close to other people, and other people get in your way, and you get in the way of other people. So when that happens, you have to say those things. Right? All Japanese people say those things, right? So those three expressions I used all the time. But the thing is when you're in public in Japan, and remember, these are big cities, so when you're in public, there's always other people on the street. There's always other people around. It's a very dense population. It's rare to find yourself alone in public in Japan. So what happens? Everybody is going somewhere. You can't sit on a bench in public in Japan. First, there are very few benches for doing that because people don't do that. There's nobody sitting around on the street corner. People don't even spend time in parks relaxing like you often see here in Costa Rica, right? There's none of that. Everybody goes out because they're going from one place to another.
Yeah.
And so what happens in public, you don't have conversations with people. Yeah, you don't. And so where do Japanese people speak Japanese? They speak Japanese in the office and they speak Japanese at home.
Mm-hmm.
They don't speak it to people in public because they don't know those people. And so my contact with Japanese people was when I was in public, going from one place to another, and there's no reason to have a conversation. So you don't. Okay. And at home, I lived with people who spoke English. And at work, I was not permitted to speak Japanese. In the classroom, I was only permitted to speak English. So I had very little chance to practice Japanese. Even if I knew Japanese, I didn't have the chance to practice it. Yeah. So, yeah. Let me see. We have a question from Guillermo Espinal. What was the most shocking thing that you saw in Japan? Well, as soon as he said the word, as soon as I saw the word shocking, the first thing I thought of were the earthquakes.
Oh, worse than here? Well, they have
yeah. They're somewhat different. And it's because of the ground is different. The earth below us is different. In Japan, it's hard mountains. And in Costa Rica, there's the ground is softer. And so in a strong earthquake in Costa Rica, sometimes it feels like it feels like you're in a machine that's called a mix master. I don't know if you know what a mix master is.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like a machine that you prepare food in, and it goes around like this. It mixes the food like that, and so you feel like you're up here, and the ground's kind of going around like that, right? But in Japan, there are all kinds of different earthquakes, but there is one kind of earthquake that I've never felt here in Costa Rica, and this is a very, very interesting story. I got to tell this. It happened one night about 1 o'clock in the morning. I was watching TV at home, and I lived in a row of houses, and there was a mountain on one side, and on the other side was bamboo. It was a really interesting place to live because we had a lot of natural beauty there, right? And but the street was so narrow that you couldn't drive a car on it, only motorcycles and bicycles. And it was basically in a line. And I guess there were about 30 houses in a line along this very, very tiny street. And it was 1 o'clock in the morning. Everything was very, very quiet. And suddenly I heard a sound. It came down the road and it just went boom, 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 boom. And then it hit my house.
Oh.
And yeah, I heard it hitting every house. And it all happened in less than a second. But the earthquake was just basically like one boom like that. And that was it. But it was a wave that was traveling in slow motion. So it was like somebody playing the drums, you know, like that, except it was coming from the earth. Yeah. And the earthquake itself was just one hit like that. And that was it. And I heard it come down the row, and we were near the end, so I didn't actually hear it continue very much. But that was such a strange earthquake. But that's what they're like. That's when, and there were other, there are earthquakes that sometimes last for a minute or so. There are lots of different types of earthquakes, but I remember that one really well because that was such a strange experience.
Was your first time with a hard?
That one wasn't my first, no. But it was certainly the most unusual. Yeah. And my first one, I think, was in a building. I think it was on like the 5th or 6th floor, and we got some of the movement of the building, and that was like the first time I'd ever felt that, because in my part of Canada, we don't have earthquakes.
Yeah.
None. Yeah. So that was definitely a new thing, Yeah. But let's see. Okay. Well, let's get back to the teaching, though. Any other questions about my teaching experiences in Canada, in Japan, in Costa Rica, online with the Chinese? What would you like to know about?
Okay.
Any other questions?
One question more for me. At the past, do you have some experience about people they said, "Yeah, you're a Canadian." Do you know French? Could you please teach us some French, something like that?
Oh, well, I've had people ask me if I know French. I haven't had anybody ask me to teach French.
Yeah, really?
No. But the thing is, yes, I learned French when I was in school. But by the time I finished high school, I had some fluency in French. But after high school, I didn't use it, and I cannot have a conversation in French anymore. I'm just totally out of practice with that. Yeah. Yeah. But having learned French, it's good for me when I'm teaching English, because there are a lot of words, for example, and sounds that we have in English that come from French. And so you see, there are words like entrepreneur, which in Spanish is emprendedor, right? The entrepreneur, the spelling and the pronunciation, it's very different than English. And that's the reason for it. It's because it's a word that we borrowed from French, and we try to say it with French pronunciation. students are always like confused about these French words with the strange pronunciation, and it's just nice to be able to tell them, well, the reason why that is a strange word to pronounce in English is because it's actually French pronunciation. Yeah. Uh-huh. So yeah, and so you can say actually you learn a little bit of French when you learn English. It's mostly just vocabulary.
Yeah.
You learn a little bit of French vocabulary when you learn English. Yeah.
How is
Okay.
how is it works? I don't remember. I know Spanish and French is from the same roots as
Mm-hmm.
Latin, but then it's another branch, English, or is it is a part of another language. I don't know how is the palette of the English, where the English came from.
Um,
Do you
yeah.
know? I was
Oh
thinking
yes.
about,
Uh-huh.
because we have a kind of similar words and pronunciation
Mm-hmm,
from
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
because we are Latin. We have a Latin root from.
Well, I'm glad you asked that because I love to explain to students why English is so complicated. Um, it's just really stupid sometimes because what do you say? You say, I have a car. Okay. And then to make it negative, you say, I do not have a car. What's this word do? Where did that come from? I mean, in Spanish, yo tengo un carro, yo no tengo un carro, right? That's so easy. You just add one word, but in English, you got to put this word do in there, and you can't even translate the word do into Spanish, you know?
Yeah.
And it's always confusing students, well, especially the beginners, right? It's just, why do you have that word? And the answer is those two sentences are in the simple present tense, right? I have a car. I do not have a car. But one of them is based on Latin grammar, and the other is based on Anglo-Saxon grammar. And these are the two principal sources of English. I always like to say English is a collision between two languages that existed a long time ago. And one of those languages was Latin. And now Latin was the language spoken by the Roman Empire, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And the Roman Empire arrived in England, I think, not exactly sure about this. I think it was about 200 years before the birth of Christ. And they only occupied southern England, and they stayed there just for a little bit more than 200 years, and then they left. But they left some of their language there in England. And so that was the first time the local language in England before the Roman Empire came was called Anglo-Saxon. Okay. And it's what you call in Spanish Anglo-Sajon. Okay. So that was the first time that Latin mixed with Anglo-Saxon. Okay. But then the Roman Empire left, and England was its own country for a long, long time, for almost 1,000 years, but then the French came and invaded in the year 1066, and this is when English changed again. It started to change again because the French actually came over and they conquered England, and they replaced all the kings. These French people, they were already speaking a form of French that was very heavily influenced by Latin. So we got in 1066, we got both French and Latin coming back into the English language. Okay. And again, it was Anglo-Saxon mixing with French and Latin. Okay. So, and then by the time of about William Shakespeare, it's a little bit of a simplification, but in Shakespeare's time, you could say a sentence in English in two different ways. You could say it with Latin grammar, or you could say it with Anglo-Saxon grammar. And that was very, very nice. You had two grammars. Yeah, you had, but what happened is these two grammars were kind of fighting against each other, right? And what happened is in the simple present, this is a simplification. It's not exactly correct, but you can think of it this way. In around about Shakespeare's time, you could say something like, I do have a car. No, they didn't have cars. Let's say, I do have a horse. Okay. They had horses. Okay. I do have a horse. Or you could say, I have a horse. Okay. You could say it the Latin way or the Anglo-Saxon way. Okay. And with the negative, there were two ways to say it. You could say, I do not have a horse, or you could say, I have not a horse, which is a little bit similar to Latin, although it's different than Spanish because the not comes after the verb, not before it, like in Spanish, right? Okay. So, William Shakespeare had two ways to make sentences. But then what happened over the next 500 years is some of those sentences started to disappear. I do have a horse. Now that one, actually, it can be used today, but it's only used in one very particular circumstance, and most of the time it's not used. Okay. And we just said, I have a horse. That's what we say today. I have a horse. Okay. And that's Latin. We kept the Latin one, but for the negative, we kept the Anglo-Saxon. I do not have a horse. And the Latin form, which was I have not a horse, that completely disappeared from English.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We don't say it anymore. Okay. So that's very confusing because both in the simple present tense in English and in the simple past tense, those two tenses are half Latin, half Anglo-Saxon.
That is right.
And so I always tell people the simple present and the simple past in English are not simple. They're complicated.
Yes.
The only reason why we call them simple is because in all the other European languages, they are simple. Okay. And they're also very basic. They're basic verb tenses that you need for everything else in English. Right. So, dare I say, and some people don't like to hear this, especially some English people, but English is a Creole language. Like in Jamaica, right? Or on the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica, right?
Yeah.
The English really don't like it when you say that, you know. You don't like it being called a Creole language, but it is. It's this. It's like two different languages crashed together,
Mm-hmm.
and this is what you have. You have a grammar that's like this.
Yeah, it's a mix of everything.
Yeah, it's like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, so Spanish is so much more consistent.
Yeah.
Because Spanish is like 90% Latin based. Yeah.
Yeah, it's from my point of view, I think it's have more structures. We need to follow syntaxes and grammar definitions. So you are able, if you understand if you are able to understand the syntaxes, you can be very fluent.
Yeah. I just like to say one more thing, and that is for Spanish speakers learning English and they're having trouble with the simple present. I sympathize with you because you don't really realize it, but you're not learning one grammar. You're learning two. You're learning the grammar of two different languages at the same time when you study the simple present and the simple past in English. Yeah. We have an interesting comment here from somebody I don't know. Priscilla Collado. It says, such an interesting talk show. Congratulations. And thank you for sharing this valuable conversation. Okay, good. Well, we have a few people today that are watching us that don't actually know me, apparently. And that's interesting because we didn't actually promote this first one very much. We didn't really tell a lot of people about it, but yeah, how are we doing here? Yeah. Oh, well, we've come up to 10 o'clock, so I guess we have to stop here. But we had a little technical glitch there with Catalina, but we don't know what happened. But these things are going to happen, right? These things are going to happen. But I'm glad to hear that some people thought this was interesting. And I would like to say that, yes, we are going to have guests. I'm usually going to be the host of the show. In the future, I hope to bring on English-speaking guests for the show. And also, I am an online English teacher. And if anybody out there is interested in taking classes with me, you can reach me on WhatsApp. My number is 7014-4835. And also I'm on YouTube. My channel, you probably already can see this, but yeah, John Victor Hall on YouTube. You already know that one. I didn't need to tell you that. Okay. But yeah, on WhatsApp, if you want to reach out to me about taking English classes online with me, my number is 7014-4835. Do we have a chat?
Do we? Yes, we have.
I see a private chat down here. I should write it on the board, maybe, on the whiteboard here. 7014-4835. That is my number on WhatsApp. Please don't call me on the phone. I rarely answer my phone because I'm usually teaching English classes and I don't want to be answering the phone during our class. Okay, so it's best to send me a text message. Don't call me. Best to send me a text message on WhatsApp and I'll tell you about my classes. And yeah, I'm looking for new students. So yeah, if anybody wants to take classes with me, sure, I'd be glad to try to accommodate you in my schedule. Okay, good. Let me see. I guess that is it. Thank you very much, Carlos and Catalina. I think you did a great job today. Yeah, you asked very good questions.
Great.
Yeah, and we'll see you in classes
next week. Yeah.
Next week.
Next week.
Okay, good. And we hope to be back here next Saturday as well. With a guest, hopefully, if I can convince someone to come on the show. And we'll also be meeting other students of mine who will be panelists, like Carlos and Catalina have been today. So good. Okay, great. That is it. Thank you very much. See you
next time. Bye-bye.